welcome back everyone to a brand new edition of Getting Color right here on the big VitoBrand.com. I am Virtue, of course, being joined by Big Vito LaGrasso. What's going on, man?
How is everybody out there? Hope everybody's having a great Sunday that we are taping, but listening to this Monday for your enjoyment. We're taking our time out during this crappy weather to present this show to you. So I hope you all appreciate this. I know Virtue's a little chillier than I am, but, we try to get the job done. Mr. Virtue.
Yes.
A lot of things happening in sports and a lot of things going on. Are you available for MOB tomorrow?
I might be. Again, it's because I work later on Mondays now. So that's why it's always dicey for me being on there.
You're always welcome, and I know you've been dying to talk sports, but this is Getting Color, and we talk wrestling.
Sports entertainment / wrestling.
All right, Mr. Virtue.
All right, well, let's talk this. Let's get this out of the way. Shane McMahon is no longer allegedly, right, with WWE.
Allegedly.
Now, he still owns stocks. He's still Vince McMahon's son. And I believe when he came back, because remember, he left in 2009 to go do other business ventures and was fairly successful. And then he came back and was really just an on-screen character doing stuff for WrestleMania, like the Hell in a Cell against The Undertaker. He had a match with AJ Styles, program with Kevin Owens. And it's been rumored that the last few Royal Rumbles, he's had his hand in the creative pot. Some of those went over pretty well with fans up until this year's. A lot of rumors going, what was supposed to happen. It seemed like for the last couple of weeks leading into it, Brock Lesnar was going to win it. By how he got there, we really don't know. But he's taken all the heat for people like I've never heard this before, Vito, with people not liking Shane McMahon. So I don't know if this is, the moles that give the dirt sheets their news, just giving them bullshit, or if there are people that don't like Shane McMahon and if he was too egotistical, maybe trying to book himself over. It's just weird because his name's McMahon, right? You never hear people bitch about Stephanie's power, Vince's power. Like, why all of a sudden now Shane? Like, don't you think that McMahon name says they pretty much can do whatever they want? Like, it's not adding up to me, Vito. What is your thoughts on this whole Shane McMahon thing?
Well, let's take this back.
Okay.
Attitude Era. When Shane McMahon was an on-screen character and he was wrestling, I have always said I thought he was a great wrestler. I thought he was very good for being a part-time wrestler, coming in and doing great matches, right? When he did the GM spot, when he came back in 2009, he came back, I thought, great pop. Everybody's doing it. Hey, how's it going, Lewis Davies? I thought it was great for business. He gave it a little spice. But his father always expected him to produce those kinds of matches where he takes those big bumps and he was the highlight. Now, the WrestleMania's passed. He might have had more of a say. Now, here's where it gets tricky. You're out of the limelight. You are the son. You do have say-so, right? Wrestlers can't be bookers, and bookers can't be wrestlers. You go into WrestleMania. Now, this is just what we know. We weren't backstage. True. And a lot of controversy on how the thing is supposed to be. Your biggest draw is Brock Lesnar. Don't matter who you are, what you are, how you do. Brock Lesnar is your main draw. We've seen Shane McMahon come in, trade punches with two wrestlers, get the best of them. One, a former MMA fighter, and then have a hard time getting out of the ring when Lesnar wanted to throw him out. Was that a spite bump? I think it was. when he didn't go over the first time. He had to hit him the second time. It was like, fuck you. I'm doing it my way. And he went out. Him getting fired, him not being there, him being the son. Did he get the phone call from Laurinaitis? He got sent home. Nobody happy with him. He's a very likable guy. And because his name is McMahon, he's liked partially because his father, but he is a likable human being. He has his mother's tendencies.
Yeah, like Stephanie would have her dad's, and
Yes.
Shane would have his mom's.
100%. Now, let's get to the juicies. All Elite Wrestling, all you see the past week is him going to All Elite. You don't see him going anyplace else but there. Then there have been a couple of speculation about him opening up his own wrestling company, which would be on course, Virtue, if you were the son of Vince McMahon, what would you do to get his attention? Because obviously you're not the favorite son. Stephanie is. And there are reasons behind that. But what would you do to get your father's attention at this point?
Well, I thought he tried to do that by leaving WWE for 7 years and doing all. I mean, we got to remember, before he left WWE, he was responsible for getting partially responsible for getting their TV deals with Brazil and Mexico, which at the time was huge, right? Because that was way before the network, way before WWE was really going too globally with televising their stuff. And then it's almost like Vince didn't appreciate that. And Shane, it's like Vince looked at Shane as just a bump machine for WrestleMania or whatever the big matches were. And then in spite of that, he left to go pursue other business ventures, which he did, which successfully. I think he did some stuff with China. I don't know if you want to call that controversial or not, but business is business. Yet he came back.
Right.
And what does he do now to impress his dad? Like, I don't know. I mean, you can't. I have a feeling this is more around the fact that, maybe 20 years ago, you had Stephanie and Shane, right? And you're like, when something happened to Vince, the family's going to take over. Now WWE is huge. It's a big corporation, publicly traded. And Nick Khan is almost like Vince McMahon's new son or brother or whatever. And I feel like that's what's happened. And Shane might be bitter and spiteful, and maybe he wanted out of there. Vito, he's not going to be able to just go make another wrestling company. Like, if this happened 3 years ago and he was able to get with Tony Khan and make AEW, now we got a whole different ball game.
Right.
But you know what I mean? That now I think it's a little too late. What does Shane go and do other than the kind of business he did, which is not wrestling related?
All right. I just want to say hello to Bones on chat. He follows me on TikTok. Thank you very much. Peace. Yeah, but Dave, him opening up his own company, I don't see him going over to AEW, giving an old fuck you, Vince. I do see that happening.
But do you see Tony Khan doing that?
Yes.
I don't know, man. I just don't know. I think Tony Khan's ego is so big, he wouldn't even entertain it.
Virtue. Shane is liked by those guys too, right? It's not like he's the forbidden apple. If you put Shane O'Mac on AEW, that blows away anything, any signing bigger than Sting, it would blow away everybody for him to come to AEW and draw the ratings.
Well, yeah, that I agree. But would Tony Khan see that forest through the trees or whatever the saying goes? I don't know, man. Tony Khan's in his own little bubble.
Tony Khan's in his own little bubble, right? Tony Khan has been accused of being a fanboy, right? Accused. He's doing an excellent job as an owner. He could see money in this. He's not blind. And if I was an owner and I said, well, what can I do to sign the forbidden door? Shane McMahon comes walking through that. I think whatever arena they are in, if they did it in Chicago, whatever the biggest draw they have, the place would come unglued.
I mean, he brought in CM Punk, and it's been like, okay. He's brought in
But
Bryan
CM Punk
Danielson.
is not Shane McMahon.
No, that's true, but there was still a lot of buzz around his return to wrestling, and I just like here's the thing too. We'll piggyback this Shane topic into Tony Khan has this big announcement. There's going to be this forbidden door, which he likes to use, of this new superstar coming to AEW. Who do you think it's going to be, or maybe the top two people? I don't know.
Want to know out of the group of what they were saying?
Yeah.
I don't see Braun Strowman being a big acquisition only because he's the biggest guy in the company. What's up, JP for Life 87? What's up, guys? Vito, gotta say, I miss your dad's pizza. Thank you very much. A lot of people give me that a lot. Thank you very much for being a fan of my father, the pizza man, Lorenzo. Thank you very much. Anyway, they had that poll. Aaron Rip put the poll up, and people were putting Keith Lee. Now, Keith Lee, what has Keith Lee done? By the way, Keith Lee, congratulations on getting married yesterday to Mia Yim. You know, years and years of good luck to you. Hope everything goes well. I hope you have a great marriage. But when you look at statistics of what you've done in the wrestling business, Keith Lee only was NXT. Very, very, very spotty on the main roster. The most accomplished wrestler there is Bray Wyatt. And if I was Tony Khan, I would bring back the Wyatt family. And there is your new stable for the next how many years?
I mean, that's who it should be of all but they're saying forbidden door, and from what I understand, that's based on bringing somebody in that's currently with another company. So all these free agents that we talk about, that's not a forbidden door. So if it's Keith Lee, oh whoop-de-doo, he was a free agent. Bray Wyatt, great, but he was a free agent. So I'm interested. If it ends up being one of them, then shut up, Tony Khan. Stop saying forbidden door. But could it be somebody from Impact? Could it be Triple H?
Is it? I mean, yeah, but here's the thing too, right? Would anybody in Impact
probably not
draw anything in AEW? Absolutely not. There's no, because when Kenny Omega was doing that whole run, they lost ratings. There was nobody of a big draw there. They lost people.
What if it was Mickie James, even though she's not with WWE, but she just was at the Royal Rumble? Could it be Mickie James for the women's division?
What would Mickie James bring to the table? Okay, she's there for the women.
Exactly,
okay.
Right, which always needs work, which I can't believe Dutch Mantel's sitting there putting their division over is better than WWE's, but that was from an article. Jargo was like, we'll talk about that on the sit-down next week. But right. I don't know, Vito, just because she was recently in the Royal Rumble. So that could be the forbidden door,
I can't see her being involved because she was just on WWE. And for her to come into AEW, no pop.
I mean, I like Bray Wyatt there. I just don't know how involved he is outside of wrestling with his new Hollywood stuff right now. If it's time for him to come back, I think in time he will. You honestly know what I think?
What?
We're going to be disappointed. It's going to be Keith Lee. It's going to be Keith Lee. I just have that feeling.
I don't think that is not going to go as over.
I know, but I really can't think of who it's going to be. Where Tony's hardcore fan base will pop for, because that's what he cares about, popping them. Keith Lee will still pop them because WWE failed him. That's what the narrative will be.
All right, next subject.
All right. Kurt Angle. So rumors were that he was going to come back and work with WWE again in some capacity.
Right.
And it's always rumors because we saw what happened with him last time. Commissioner had some matches. The whole, I think he beat Baron Corbin at WrestleMania, or I think he beat him. I don't know if he lost to him or beat him. But that was his last match. And then, he's in the Hall of Fame. So that's supposedly, if there was a plan in place to bring Kurt Angle back, now the rumors are it's next. And it's just weird because could that whole thing have been revolving around Shane McMahon? Him and Shane were pretty tight. Russo and Kurt are pretty tight. I don't know, man. That's just weird that it seemed like we were going to see Kurt again soon. And now all of a sudden it's scrapped, which again could all be speculation.
Well, we're talking speculation, but nobody ever brought to the fact of who would come from the Forbidden Door. What happens if Vince Russo showed up from the Forbidden Door?
That would be great, but like
no. If you think about it, if there's one guy who you never thought would come and do something, right? And you had to say you want a reaction.
We're talking for the AEW announcement.
Yeah.
Well, and he brings his crew, and it brings a couple of his crew with him, like you.
Yes. But just for say, they do that. And then all of a sudden, all the narrative changes, and he's sitting in the big chair, and he's giving direction, and he's the new head writer, the new commissioner.
That's true. Oh, someone in the chat, Bones the Boomer, said Jeff Hardy.
It could be Jeff Hardy, but like, who would they bring him up against?
Probably put him right in the program with Matt and whatever Matt was doing.
What's Matt doing right now?
He was just kind of remember he was doing that, trying to pay for, be the advisor to some wrestlers, and he was like fighting against them. And
I mean, if there was all of a sudden guys, and follow the bouncing ball, if there was a tag team tournament for the titles and Matt Hardy had an entrance, and he's bringing in a surprise partner, there's your entrance for the Hardy Boys. Or say Matt Hardy gets to a title shot and his partner gets injured, he's got to find a new partner. Who does he bring in? That would pop the crowd.
Could it be Kurt Angle? And I'm saying that because if he was going to go back to WWE and that was scrapped, could it be Kurt Angle?
All honesty, and this is
I'm just throwing that out there.
No, he's throwing it out there. But when we seen Kurt Angle wrestle the last time, your thoughts on him wrestling? You said, "I'm glad it's over."
Yeah,
couldn't move, wasn't the same. He could not be Kurt Angle anymore. Would he go and tarnish his legacy in the AEW? One guy who probably wishes he never would have did a signing is Sting. He ruined his legacy in WWE. The way they treated him.
Yeah.
They might have paid him $5 million, but they ruined everything he stood for and worked for, and they ruined him. Ric Flair went out like a gentleman at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels. Went out like a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Could have had an ambassador job with the WWE. Shut up. Just do your thing. And he could have been for life. Went to Impact. Ruined his legacy. I don't see Kurt Angle ruining his legacy. I can't. If he did, I just don't see it happening.
Well, we're going to have to see who this person is. And maybe as soon as Dynamite this week, coming up, Vito, we'll be able to talk about it on the sit-down. And if it's Keith Lee, I swear to God, Tony Khan would then just be better. Just have these people show up instead of announcing it. But that's just me. All right. So through all of this, where we're at now in WWE, heading into WrestleMania, Big E is once again back to the mid-card, upper mid-card at times, right? New Day were tag team champions several times and had some high-profile, feuds and matches as a trio. But he's over on SmackDown now with Kofi, out of the main event scene, probably going to mix it back up in the tag division. Is this Big E just not having that main event star power, or is it maybe he was too far gone into the New Day gimmick? And like he and Kofi, when they had their opportunity to be the champion, they stuck with that New Day gimmick, which just didn't feel main event. Maybe that's just me speaking. What do you think? Because I've got a lot of interaction about that on Twitter this evening. So I wanted to
Okay.
make it the main event.
All right. Now, to the Citizen Slim, Nick Aldis did not have no star power whatsoever. Nick Aldis is not going to pop no crowd. Nick Aldis, when you talk about Nick Aldis, he didn't make it in ECW, WCW, TNA. He was there. He was world champion. Went to NWA, became world champion. Great career. But is it big enough for Nick Aldis to make that much news to come on a big television? Remember, TNA Impact was like 2 million people, right? But even when he had his run as champion, it wasn't as that powerful. Nick Aldis never made it to the WWE because they didn't think he was didn't think he had it. We come to Big E. I said this in the beginning of Getting Color a long time ago. I said Big E doesn't have the it factor to be a singles wrestler. He is more accomplished in a tag team or in a group. Some guys have it, some guys don't. Big E does not have that star quality to be by himself. He is a good wrestler, he's entertaining, but when he's in a group, being a single, he loses something. He's not as charismatic. And then when you give him the ball to carry, say, this is going to be the face of my company. You can't take him serious because of all the goofy stuff he did before.
And he won the Money in the Bank and cashed it in, and that's kind of how he became champion. And it's almost like they don't really treat those people that do it that way as serious anyway. They're like a filler, like a
Right.
quick shock value, and then boom, like
And
a
then boom
transitional
out.
champion.
Right? You look at Drew McIntyre, right? His whole title run, they tried to change him. They ruined him, right?
Do you
He'll
think
never
it would have been the same with Drew if that pandemic didn't exist and he had a live crowd?
He
I'm
would have
just
had a better run and he would have stayed in his heel persona because as a heel, he was hot. What was the name of his tag team partner there in Eminem? Um, Jinder
who,
Mahal. Jinder
yeah.
Mahal. Another guy in the same category. They put him up. They said, okay. And he had it. You haven't seen it. You had The Miz. He was in and out as champion, right? And then you have Big E, another filler. Now you have Bobby Lashley. Now, Bobby Lashley is situational because Bobby Lashley, I don't think, was supposed to be a champion ever again. You
And
saw him.
remember, Vito, he won it last year and had it at WrestleMania, where everybody thought he was going to lose it to Drew. He kept it, and now he has it again, although he has to go through the chamber. And there's rumors out there that Lesnar might win it for title versus Reigns. But Lashley again, WrestleMania season, he's at the top with the WWE Championship. That's more than once now with him.
Right. But now here's another thing. He's got a dead match against McIntyre. That's a dead match nobody wants to see. I don't want to see it. If I had to pick one match on the card, and this is no disrespect to Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley, but if those guys were put against other people, I'd say, okay, I might be interested. But both of them together, there's no juice to it. There's no juice to it.
Now, there's a lot. I mean, again, we got to see what happens in Saudi Arabia because Brock Lesnar is in that match. And anytime Brock Lesnar's in a match, you almost have to anticipate him winning it. That would be very weird for Lashley to have won the WWE title just to lose it back at Saudi Arabia. But they might be doing that to pop the Saudi Arabia princes for Lesnar winning a title in their country.
I
But
think
Vito,
that's the whole gist of it.
do
Bobby
you?
Lashley was a transitional champion because they had no plans to put it on him. It gives him a second title win. It makes him look good. But Was he going to be the main event of WrestleMania? Absolutely not.
And think about it. Remember, they have 2 nights in Dallas, right? You know,
Right.
Ronda Rousey's going to close one night. They're going to, just because they have to put the women on one night, because
Right.
that's been their tradition lately. So you figure Ronda and Charlotte are going to close night 1. Lesnar and Reigns is going to close night 2. So if there was a WWE Championship match, it would be mid card on one of the other, probably night 1. So I think Lesnar is going to win it back, Vito, and we're
Yes.
going to have a title for title match at WrestleMania.
Here's the other thing that we're looking at. WWE's been known to throw, some surprises. What happens if Goldberg wins that title?
Oh yeah, Goldberg and Reigns.
What happens if Brock Lesnar walks down the aisle, right? Interferes with Roman Reigns' match, and all of a sudden Goldberg throws a spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. It's a fuck finish,
Dude.
screw job.
If they do that, then Brock's got to get screwed again out of the Elimination Chamber by Reigns, and now you're going to have Reigns and Lesnar with no title, and then you're going to have your other 2 titles defend. I mean, that's WWE. They always can do something
But
screwy
do you
like
follow what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Tit for tat, like Brock never got his revenge on Roman. So we're in Saudi Arabia. What happens, Roman Reigns, especially if he goes after Heyman, right? The distraction factor is so big. And the fact that they brought Goldberg back, do you think they want to waste that one last time and that's going to be the end of Goldberg in Saudi Arabia to lose? Absolutely not.
Well, to answer you, and it's going to be a cliffhanger for next week's Getting Color.
That's it.
I think Reigns will keep the title, and I'm going to say next week I want to talk to you about this in one of our topics. I think
Okay.
Reigns is going to hit 1,000 days, and I'm going to tell you why next week. And the timeline plays out perfectly coming into Los Angeles WrestleMania with potentially who. And I know the title doesn't need to be on the line, Vito, but I'm starting to get this strong feeling. Reigns is now at 500 and some days. They're going to keep that strap on him. And I want to talk about that next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Anything you want to add before we close the show? Anything on your mind?
No, I think we covered everything. That was pretty much it for this week. It's been a slow week. Just want to thank all the people in the chat. We have Citizen, Ronda and Becky one night. You're right. Ronda versus Charlotte.
Except it's not Ronda and Becky. It's already been announced Charlotte and Ronda, I think.
I'm reading what's in the chat, and then they said against The Rock, WWE seems to be moving towards title unification when men and women. Isn't it.
In Los Angeles, in 2 years, I think the plan is for Becky and Ronda. That's maybe when you get Roman Reigns and The Rock too. So we'll have to see.
I think it's a good scenario, but even if they did unify them this year, because the card is subject to change.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And there was whispers of Rollins being involved somewhere because they don't want to kill him. And getting back to the Shane McMahon thing, Rollins was supposed to be in the mix somewhere, and Shane McMahon was going to overthrow all the hard work he did. And then what do you do? And that's been a sour point with a lot of wrestlers, with guys who work part-time and they're busting their asses all year long to get to these major spots. And when a part-time wrestler comes in who has some stroke and they take that spot away and they take the juice.
Vince McMahon's been doing that for years. Look at The Undertaker. So it's a pecking order. And if you are a proven attraction for him, he's going to push you. Shane, on the other hand, was never really a proven attraction. He was always kind of there to help Dad out. So I don't know. Good chat, Vito. That's all I got, man.
All right. That's it. Everybody in the chat, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Follow us on TikTok and all the other great stuff. Follow Noelle. She loves you. Virtue, close it up.
Follow Vito on Twitter at the Big Vito Brand. Follow me at NoDQ_Virtue. But I am Virtue. That is Big Vito. We will be back next week. Be sure to check out patreon.com Facebook.com/Big V Mafia. This has been Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. See you next time.
Peace out, people.